Welcome to RochesterFirst.com, everybody. I'm News 8 Chief Meteorologist Eric Snidel on a really cold Tuesday evening across western New York. It's 23 degrees right now in Rochester. That is it. We still got this northerly wind flow, which means your wind chill is even colder than that. It feels like teens across most of the area at this hour. The good news with some of this cold air, it's not getting that much colder through the rest of the evening and overnight. I think we end up losing maybe another couple of degrees. Most of us will settle somewhere on either side of 20 by early Wednesday morning, but at least this is not free fall mode that takes us into negative territory, at least not this early in the season. Radar is settled down. We showed you that northerly wind. This is going to veer more easterly overnight, so we start to shunt and cut off any flow coming off of Lake Ontario. So outside of a few flurries, we're done with the snowfall for about 24 hours, and then we're not done after that. Next storm system, there it is. Upper level low right about in there. There's some snow already falling across the southern plains. There will be a lot more by tomorrow night as that guy turns into a big old nor'easter across the mid-Atlantic and New England Wednesday night and Thursday. And yes, there will be some implications on our weather locally with that. Timing of our next round of precip. So we take this in chunks of 6 hours. You got tonight, this is 6 a.m. tomorrow, all the way into about the afternoon drive home tomorrow in Rochester. I really don't see much in the way of inclement weather. Our ramp up in snowfall amounts, the stuff that's going to make travel much more difficult, that will pick up late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. I do think Thursday morning's commute is going to be a relatively tough one around here. We're not advertising a foot of snow in Rochester. This is not going to be setting any kind of records, but I do think this is going to be enough for some impact into Thursday morning. That means you probably need to leave early to get to where you're going. Latest run of our computer model, we call this the RPM, call it Future View. It takes us into a mix of clouds and sunshine and then just mainly clouds as we go into our Wednesday afternoon. We will stop the motion of this graphic at 5:30. There's your snowfall. So we're already starting to get some steady and likely minor accumulations of snow from Jamestown toward Olean, Wellsville, Elmira, Binghamton. They've got winter storm watches and winter storm warnings in that part of the state of New York. I think they're going to end up with upwards of a foot of snow in places like Elmira and Binghamton. While that does not happen in Rochester, that doesn't mean we are spared entirely. As we go deeper into the evening and deeper into the night, moisture starts to overcome the dry air, steady, moderate accumulating snow, likely falling across a lot of the area. Temperatures all the while upper teens and low 20s. So there's no question at this point that what's falling is going to fall in the form of snow. There's no question that whatever falls is going to end up sticking, and we're not even borderline with freezing. We are plenty cold enough for this to be all snowfall before finally starting to taper off after Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, I think most of the system snow is gone. The wraparound northerly flow that could introduce a couple of leftover lake flakes, but that would largely be about it. So let's recap how all of this is going to play out. Your next 24 hours are quiet. No weather worries. The trends, though, today, and we've been talking about this system for a while. In fact, I can go back to last week. This system was on our radar. There's been a nudge upward this afternoon with some of our high-resolution models in the notion of instead of Rochester maybe just getting an inch out of this, we're likely now more looking at several inches. We're not getting the core of this. This is not going to be a big major snowstorm for the Rochester area. That part is never in question. But how much of this minor-ish event we end up getting snowfall-wise appears to be going up. There's an element of uncertainty here that within 36 hours, I would like to see more consensus with our models. We're not still getting that, and that sometimes happens with these storms. And when I say that, I mean we never know exactly how things are going to play out. We rely on these computer models for help, but we often at this stage of the game see them a bit more in line and jive together with the notion of we're going to get X, Y, or Z. At this particular stage, I could still show you models that have the Rochester area no better than an inch. I could show you some models that have the Rochester area well over half a foot of snowfall. Obviously, one of those will end up being right, trying to find the answer there, but the fact that there is still all of this uncertainty tells me and forces me to tell you that these forecasts that we're showing and talking about here are subject to change. We always say that, but I think that element of ambiguity that exists right now means this map that you're looking at now, if you don't pay attention over the course of tonight and tomorrow morning, if this is the last thing you see, you're going to be outdated. And that is just the reality of meteorology, and particularly a case like this. Things can and do change. This is how we see things with the latest data and our experience here as of tonight. Snowfall amounts out of this. Now, this is our predicted snowfall map, again, as it stands right now. And the way we draw this up, you've got the light blue, 1 to 3 inches. The darker blue is a tier higher. That's 3 to 6. And the way we've drawn this here, we're going to kind of bisect the city of Rochester. I think the smart money at this point, if you are in one of the boroughs on the north side of Rochester, a place like Greece, Charlotte, Irondequoit, you would likely lean closer toward this one. The south side of Rochester, as you start taking a drive on 390 and you start even getting into places like Henrietta and then you jump the county line into Livingston, we're looking at you in more of that 3 to 6 category. So we do think there's going to be a gradient here from north to south. The closer you are to the lake, the lower your snowfall amounts. The farther you are south of the Thruway especially, the higher your totals are going to be, which gets us into more of our Finger Lakes region. So we're looking at you from Wyoming to Livingston, Ontario, and Yates County. I think it's a good bet that you are at least in this zone of 3 to 6 inches, and you see some purple showing up from about a Cast Isle to Dansville, Naples, and Penn Yan line. This is where we jump another tier from 3 to 6, likely closer to 6 to 12. You're going to be plowing in that part of the world. That appears to be pretty much a slam dunk at this point. And even in Rochester, you know, even if we only get 2-3 inches of snowfall, that would be the most that we've seen so far this season. The timing of that, with it being Thursday morning, that would be plenty enough for some issues for the Thursday morning commute. A reasonable chance at this point that 2 to 3 is not going to be able to cut it. Part of the reason I suspect that some of these totals might be higher, it's going to be really cold, which means there's a high snow ratio with this. It's going to be a really fluffy snow versus wet and clingy, and the fluffy snow tends to accumulate much more efficiently, so it can sneak the totals up higher than you would suspect otherwise, and I think there's going to be an element of that. That snow will taper off by the end of the day on Thursday. Friday looks good. Do temperatures get much above freezing? Part of that will depend on how much snow is on the ground, because remember, even though it stopped snowing later Thursday, we never get above freezing. We drop back into the upper teens into Thursday night, so I think all of that snow will still be on the ground, and that could refrigerate us a little bit. If we end up with an upside snow surprise more than we expect, we're never going to make it to 32 degrees on Friday just because of all of that snow on the ground. If we get less snow than expected, maybe we barely break the freezing mark, and we should be back into the 40s going into the weekend.